Well, hello, this is Stacy Adams, and this is another episode of the Rebuilding of Me. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I am all about things that rejuvenate us as believers or just people, everyday people. When you go through something challenging and even traumatic, sometimes you tend to put life on hold. And this channel is all about the process and the steps of rebuilding life after. Life after what? For me, life after the death of both parents in an 11-month period, life after a car was stolen, life after a bankruptcy, life after all these different things. You fill in the blank. But it's an opportunity for us to take this journey together to go to the next place, because life doesn't end for those who are remaining after those changes happen, after those situations, those encounters. Life doesn't stop. We, me and you, have to go on. And then there's a rebuilding, there's a rebirth, there's something more that comes after that. So for me, I focus on 4 F's of faith, fiction, finances, and fun. So along the way, I'm going to touch one of those components. And today I'm going to reconnect with something I said in my first video about the story of Nehemiah and how in 52 days he was charged and took on the assignment of rebuilding the walls of Jericho. And I'm going to take my time and diving into that whole book step by step and piece by piece as we go along. I won't do it all today, but today I feel led to just kind of do some of the introduction to that, because I think it is a good foundation for us and where we're going in this journey together. So in the first chapter of Nehemiah in the Bible, it talks about how he's in this land called Shushan, and you might recognize that same name because it comes up again in the story of Esther, which is the book right after that in the traditional Bible. But for the sake of this story, he is there and his job is the cupbearer for the king, and he runs into somebody who came from the same hometown as he, Jerusalem, and he asked them, well, how are things back home? How are the people managing, those who were able to come out of the exile or just go past it altogether? Because Jerusalem went through all these different things. The Jews have gone through all these different things. And so he's like, how's things back at home? And he was told, basically, dude, it's not good. Things are falling apart. The walls are crumbling. They're just left wide open. Long story short, they were vulnerable. They were left vulnerable. And as many times we go through situations like the ones I just described, and you're left vulnerable, you're left wide open, you are left with the emotion of feeling like you don't have those protections and those shields. And in my case, I didn't feel like I had the scaffolding of my life anymore. Those mainstays, those pillars in my family were starting to be pulled away from me, and I couldn't really wrap my understanding around it happening at the stage and age of my life that it was. And I still to this day kind of struggle saying the words, mom's dead, my mom died. It doesn't sound natural coming out of my mouth, the finality of it all. And yet at the same time, it's part of the process. And when we looked at Nehemiah even more in that first chapter, his response to what his old buddy told him was, it was that seesaw effect. On one hand, he began to weep and he was mourning about it. And like many of us, we go through situations and it just kind of hits you, and your first response is you're in shock, you're maybe upset, you can't really put your words together, and you're crying and you're mourning and you're grieving the loss of the life that you knew beforehand. And at the same time, the flip of it, this other seesaw effect of it, was he was praying and fasting. So yet there was his faith in the midst of this calamity, in the midst of this situation, was the opportunity for him to still lean into what he knew about the great I am, about God. And isn't that so true about all of our situations? When you go through these things, it's like, okay, well, God, where were you? Like, what happened? I know for me personally, I was angry. I was angry at God because, like your word says, that a believer, a worshiper of yours is supposed to get 70 years. That's 70 years. My mother didn't see her 70th year. She lived just short of her 68th year. I was angry. I was praying for God to heal her and sustain her. And like, let's at least give me that. But I had to come to understand that it wasn't about what I wanted. It was about what she wanted and what he wanted. And I had to come at a peace with that and still believe him to be God and still hold on to my faith, because either he was God or he was God. And it couldn't be based on if I got my way. It couldn't be based on if things went according to the way I planned it and I thought it. It couldn't be according to whether, in many cases, if the marriage worked out, if the relationship was restored, if the job was saved or the business wasn't lost. We don't get to say, okay, well, God, you weren't God because that didn't go my way. And that's why I think so many people leave the church, the established church system that we know of today, because things didn't go their way. And it's hard to reconcile that with the scriptures and what we've been taught. And we don't have dialogues like the one I'm having now with people who are believers and ministers and elders and prophets telling us the truth of the matter, that sometimes our flesh feels conflicted by what we know the word to say and yet what we're experiencing. We are having those Nehemiah moments where on one hand it's hit us so hard that we're weeping and crying, and yet in the back of our minds and the depths of our souls, we know what we're supposed to do. We know we're supposed to pray. We know we're supposed to fast and keep going forward. But how do you do that in the moments where you feel like you've been blindsided? You feel like God did you an okie doke and left you hanging. And that's what I'm all about right now, is just let's walk through those deep places where we don't understand. His ways are above our ways. His thoughts are far above our thoughts. And as I was going through grief counseling, I told you guys in one of my previous videos that yes, I did go through grief counseling twice. And one of the things my counselor at the time told me, he was like, well, Stacy, the person of you that I know is a woman of faith. So is God just God when he answers the prayer you want him to answer? Is he just God when you get your way? Or do you believe him to be unadulterated, unequivocally, without question, to be the God of the universe? And if he is that person to you, then he doesn't change. That doesn't stop being. You don't stop being Stacy because on this day something changed other than the day before. You're still the same person. You was born on the same day. You got the same fingerprints, same DNA, same blood type. It does not change. God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And it took a jolt. It took moments like the one you and I are having right now for a reality check to set in and say, you know what? He's still good and he's still God. And somehow he is not intimidated by my emotions. He's not upset by me being upset and throwing the temper tantrum. He can handle it. His shoulders are broad enough to accept and process my tears, my emotion, my anger, my pain. He can handle it. And at the same time, we don't have to go through that time of emotional seesaw alone. He is right there with us in the thick of it, walking us through it. And so today is an opportunity for us to acknowledge that we still have some places that have been broken and left vulnerable, like that wall around Jerusalem, left torn down, left broken, and that we need help rebuilding it. And that's exactly what Nehemiah eventually did. He went to God in prayer and fasted, and he just spilled it out there before him and said, this is how I feel. This is what's going on. and God, can you help me? And that was the bottom line of what I came to. I had a simple 3-word prayer for 2 years. Help me, Lord. Help me, Lord. Help me, Lord. Through tears, snotting and crying, because that's all that I could get out of my mind and get all that I could get up out of my soul, all that I could get to come out of my mouth. And even if that's where you are right now, it's okay. Because with each step forward, we are reminded that those simple prayers are the most powerful. Those simple prayers are the ones He heals and hears the most in the process of rebuilding. So this is Stacey Adams, and this has been another time for the rebuilding of me. If you want to continue to take this journey with me, please subscribe. And I don't want this to be just the hum and the drum of life. We're going to do some good things, and we're going to do some deep things, and we're going to do some broad and joyful things too, because there's like that seesaw that Nehemiah had. We have those moments too, but it's all process, all part of the process of rebuilding. Be blessed.